Here we are, 600 series train. Oh wow, the LaFont. They are doing a lot of track work this weekend, so that's fine. I guess what I'm doing right now is, no, and again, this video it's just kind of an update, like a slice of life type of video. Something that I haven't really done in like quite a while. Right here is the current like status of what's going on with the Long Bridge project. Still a lot of like investigation and training going on. Though it is going to take like extremely slow because the DC hours limit from a certain set of time. I forgot what's the time of work that they have to do construction on. Meanwhile, take a look at that. All aboard Amtrak. And Amtrak is literally saying, "Get out of here, Metro." Normally it's the other way around. Now we're on the other side of the Long Bridge. See, not much is happening, especially with the snow going on, so... Ooh, I love this shot. Bye-bye, Amtrak. Now we're making the switch from the yellow to the orange. We'll be heading to Capital South? Yep. Capital South. Here we are, Capital South. A little bit of a copy pasta from all the other metro stations. But outside it's pretty interesting. I'll show you. Like coming outside of this station, normally you would see like a canopy. You know, that iconic curvy style canopies that you would find in like a Boston or a Vienna. But no, there's literally no canopy right above here. Like, this makes it a very nonchalant type of station where it isn't like overdoing it. It kind of reminds me of Van Dorn, where it's just nonchalant and it isn't like, in terms of design, superimposing on itself. So here we are. Right there, hiding behind those trees, is the Madison Library of Congress, townhouses, church. So, a pretty interesting vibe. Now, certainly there's quite a lot going on in Washington, D.C. Mostly a bunch of political shenanigans that is to be expected. But one thing that's very interesting is that on August, we will be having an auto race here in Washington, D.C. And yep, this is where the controversy truly begins. So how did this came to be? Well, rumors have began sometime last year in the summertime, but by the time the schedule got released, we never really saw that, so it looks like they were just going to plan to have this in 2027. But lo and behold, sometime during the 24 Hours of Daytona, rumors began to break out that both President Donald Trump and Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy, would find a way to have this race be a thing. Even though there is a lot of logistical hurdles that you would have to go through, because in auto racing, trying to make a street course takes like maybe more than a year of planning. There's also construction, especially when you're doing construction on a brand new type of street course, because that's going to be requiring a lot of movement of like previous structures like light poles, road signs, etc. But anyways, on January 30th, an executive order was signed to have an auto race, specifically an IndyCar race, in the streets of Washington, D.C. This will be a collaboration with the Department of Transportation, the Department of the Interior, Penske Entertainment, Monumental Sports and Entertainment, DDOT, and of course the local DC government. The name for this race will be called the Freedom 250 Grand Prix of Washington, D.C., which is quite a mouthful. Like, I'm very tempted to make an Maryland MTA Baltimore Metro Subway Link joke, but we're a very professional and very serious channel. We will not be calling this by its full legal official name of the US DOT NTT IndyCar Series Freedom 250 Grand Prix of Washington, D.C. link. But anyways, on a more personal note, this has left me quite a bit conflicted. I love transit, and I also love auto racing. That's actually a very normal thing for people to like. But the biggest issue does have to deal with the current political climate. Politically, I stand on a very centrist position. I do not like anything that the right-wing movement is doing, and I do not like anything that the left-wing movement is doing as well. So this is basically a sports watching event because of one man's arrogance. So for me, I am going to do my best to just focus on the event and remove any political aspects to the best of my ability. So I'm somewhat led to believe that we will use this route and not use much of Pennsylvania Avenue. I could be wrong though. What I'm probably gonna do is do a little bit of crayoning of what the racetrack would look like. Now it looks narrow, but that's just because, like, say we're dealing with a canyon of cars, but it's wide enough to fit at least a 3 wide of Indy cars. And no, let's not get any terrible ideas of having this race start 3 abreast with an Indy 500 style start. No, let's not do that. By the way, notice how I have to walk in this cold and treacherous rain. I wonder, maybe a bus would definitely do, but no. There is no public buses running through here. And you can thank the mayor for that. Rest in peace, DC Circulator. Rest in peace, DC Streetcar. But anyways, before I digress too far, I think that this would probably be the best choice, especially if you want to get the most type people wanting to watch like 25 to 27 Indy cars passing through it, passing through a couple of landmarks, Smithsonian video buildings. Yeah, I'm freezing. And look, the National Gallery of Art. That is where all the art buses that are in circulation goes in that building, including the one from Anaheim. Again, it's not really that narrow for Indy cars to run through here. I think the fastest they could probably go is like either 160 or 180 miles through the White House, unless they want to build a chicane in between. Before I forget, this is the National Museum of Natural History. That is where the Diamond of Hope is, where for some reason the infamous curse that the diamond has no effect here. Unless you're the DC Circulator and the DC Streetcar. So here we go. I don't think IndyCar will make a turn here, but probably like a turn like further down and make a loop behind the Museum of African American History rather than going through here, because there is literally no room for runoff here. So it would be a cool, like, say, passing opportunity here, but I think the safest bet would be there. I only say that because you could get good view maxing points here, but of course, you got to be mindful about safety. Also, there is a very high chance that the start finish line could be like, say, at the White House. Literally, there's going to be a UFC event like also there to quote unquote celebrate the 250th. But getting views from here, I don't think is that really ideal. Like, just look at it. Like, you can barely see anything there. And plus, they're putting up like sort of retaining walls to protect the Indy cars from the track. Like, I don't think you're gonna get much of a good view. Nah, won't work. So after some long sinking and some Metro Dreaming crayoning, I came up with probably the most realistic design choice for the track layout. Again, there hasn't been anything that has been released just yet, but once it does arrive, you'll see another on the ground report where I actually visit each of the corners and each of the straights, and I give a full analysis of what you may or may not be expecting. Certainly, this is probably one of the most controversial types of videos that I'm going to be making. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I do not mention any form of politics. We're just going to be focusing on the sport itself, how everything's being progressed. Obviously, there are certain things that can't be avoided, but I'm just going to try to keep it as neutral as possible. And of course, just talk about like just the race itself, how to get to the track, and just any other bits that can be mentioned here. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. May y'all have a great day, and until we meet again, bye-bye.